Okay, so let's unpack this. If you've ever been in an organization, you know the paradox. Structure is necessary, but the rules of rank, who reports to whom, they often become the primary obstacle to success.
Right.
We're talking about staring at an obvious mission-critical flaw in the plan, but watching the deadline just rush closer while you keep your mouth shut because, the person in charge outranks you.
We've all been there.
Yeah. So we have a radical stack of sources here, and our mission is to extract the specific, actionable protocols you need to turn status from a threat into a tool.
That's the core tension, isn't it? The
Right.
central urgent issue is that organizational distance, the space between those making strategy and those executing it on the front line, it just stops the flow of truth.
And when that happens, the organization stops making decisions based on reality.
Exactly. It's all based on ego and fear.
And this failure is quantifiable, which is where it gets so compelling. Our sources reference the famous Iceberg of Ignorance, a finding from Sidney Yoshida way back in 1989 that shows the real cost of these status barriers.
That data is, it's chillingly persistent. It showed that top management often knows only 4% of an organization's real problems.
Just 4%.
4%. Because those problems get filtered, they get polished, or just hidden on their way up the chain. But the frontline staff, the people actually doing the work, they know 100% of those problems.
A 96% blind spot. Think about that for a second. If you're a leader, you are flying completely blind on 9 out of every 10 critical issues.
And that gap isn't just an inefficiency?
No, it's where profit flows out
Yeah.
and catastrophic risk flows straight in. We see it everywhere.
Yeah.
From slow-moving corporate bureaucracy to, high-stakes failures like the Challenger disaster.
So our mission today is to move beyond just identifying the problem and really focus on the solution, which is redefining rank. We have to shift the mindset of status from, say, dominance to utility.
I love that line from the source material.
That's perfect, right? Silence is not respect. Silence is negligence. So today we're going to dig into the blueprints for institutionalizing that duty to speak truth.
To do that, you need a fundamental status shift, starting with just how we view hierarchy itself. In the old model, status was all about personal importance. I am more important than you.
Right. But the new model requires a shift toward liability. The mindset has to be, I carry a higher degree of liability for the outcome. My rank is a burden, not a crown.
A burden, not a crown. I like that. It reframes status as a debt to the mission, not a personal reward.
Precisely.
And that changes the nature of rank itself. The old way was, I give orders, you obey blindly.
But the new structure recognizes that, leadership has the strategic overview, but the team holds the operational reality. So the new rule has to be, without your operational view, my strategy is blind.
Which means your position isn't a privilege where you get to be served. It's a station you occupy to serve the mission and, critically, to clear obstacles for the people actually doing the work.
If your rank isn't serving the mission, it's harming it. It's creating friction.
And this shift is so essential because it addresses this hidden factor that blocks workflow. It's kind of a cousin to the Peter Principle, and the sources call it the capacity gap.
The Peter Principle, right? That's where people are promoted beyond their skill level. The capacity gap is about the destructive behavior that comes from that. When a leader's rank is higher than their capacity.
Meaning they don't really get the technical or operational reality of their department?
Exactly. They become profoundly insecure.
So that insecurity is the key. Why does a leader who lacks capacity resort to pulling rank instead of just asking for help from the experts they hired?
Because asking for help feels like an admission of fraud to them. They see their talented subordinates not as assets to lean on, but as direct threats who might expose their limitations.
So to protect themselves.
They use their authority to shut down discussion, to block new ideas, and just mandate compliance rather than leaning on the team's capacity to find a better solution.
So they're sacrificing the mission's quality for their own self-preservation.
100%. The solution is the ultimate act of leadership humility, accepting that rank does not bestow wisdom. Your job is to integrate knowledge, not to personally be the smartest person in the room.
Okay, so let's move from the mindset to the specific traps where this all goes wrong. The sources break these down by organizational level, starting with the vertical challenges.
Right, starting at the top, the strategic level, the C-suite. They fall into the trap of the ivory tower.
Isolation.
Total isolation. They mistake silence for success, thinking their grand strategy is working perfectly because nobody's reporting bad news.
And subordinates have learned that delivering bad news is career limiting.
So the fix is counterintuitive. Leaders have to actively solicit bad news. The rule has to be explicit. If you hide a problem to protect my feelings, you are endangering the mission. That makes reporting bad news a duty.
Okay, so moving down to that crucial middle layer, the operational level, the middle managers.
Here they fall victim to being the gatekeeper, which is perfectly illustrated by the watermelon effect.
The watermelon visual is so clear.
It is, isn't it? The project is green on the outside, all the dashboard reports look fine, on target, but it's red failing, behind schedule, just completely flawed on the inside, where the frontline staff are struggling.
And the managers polishing the data to make themselves look good, to get that promotion.
Exactly. They're hoarding the truth and starving leadership of reality. The fix is that managers have to see themselves as a conduit, not a dam. Their value is the accuracy of the truth they pass up.
And finally, down at the tactical level, the frontline staff. The barrier there is malicious compliance.
This is such a devastating consequence of bad leadership. The staff sees a huge flaw in an order, but they do it anyway.
Because they feel voiceless and resentful, and they think, well, maybe if I let this mistake happen, the leader will finally be exposed.
And that's where you have to define silence as sabotage. Knowing a mistake is about to happen and saying nothing is an act of disloyalty to the mission itself.
Okay, so those are the vertical barriers, mostly rooted in fear and ego. What about when that fear and ego get turned sideways? The horizontal challenge. Silos and turf wars.
This is death by 1,000 cuts for any organization. Professional disagreement turns into personal, territorial grudges.
And suddenly marketing won't share data with sales, or engineering blames manufacturing.
The organization starts fighting itself instead of the competition, and the whole mission just stalls.
And the golden rule here is so clear. If a dispute between departments delays the mission, both leaders are failing, regardless of who's technically right.
Yes, rank exists to bridge resources, not to protect your own little turf.
So how do we fix this? How do we make status actually support the work?
We need specific principles of engagement, a contract of trust.
And the first one is the mission first rule. We touch on this, but it's the foundation. Your loyalty is to the mission's success, not your superior's ego.
And withholding a concern is a failure of duty. But that truth can only flow if the leader's behavior supports it, which brings us to the 5-second rule.
Right, psychological safety is built or destroyed in the first 5 seconds after someone speaks up.
It's all about the subtle signals. If a leader sighs, rolls their eyes, checks their phone, or immediately gets defensive.
The truth stops flowing, instantly and permanently.
Absolutely. The leader has to respond with curiosity, not defense. A simple, "That's interesting, tell me more," keeps the channel open. Defensiveness closes it.
So once you have that safety, you can implement the disagree and commit covenant. This is so vital for efficiency.
It is. You have a professional duty to argue your point passionately before the decision is made. Brainstorming? No rank in the room.
But once that decision is made,
Rank is absolute. You execute that decision as if it were your own idea. Passive resistance, quiet undermining, that's just toxic insubordination.
and to make this all productive, we need the 1-3-1 solution rule. This stops staff from just dumping problems upward.
The 1-3-1 protocol forces strategic thinking. You can't just bring a problem. You have to bring one problem, 3 viable alternatives, and 1 clear recommendation.
It positions you as a strategic asset, a problem solver, not just a complainer.
Exactly.
That structured approach is a game changer. And the sources provide a powerful communication toolkit, actual scripts designed to signal, I am pro-mission, not anti-authority.
Okay, let's look at the upward scripts. When you approach a superior, you can use the permission ask. I have a concern about the risks here. Permission to speak freely.
And that formality just lowers their defenses.
Instantly. Or you can use the reality check. You position yourself as an asset. I understand the strategic goal is X, but looking at the data on the ground, I see a blockage. Can I explain how this might impact the outcome?
It frames you as an analyst providing critical data, not a critic of the plan.
Now, for downward communication, the leader needs tools too. The most important is the blind spot check. A leader has to explicitly grant safety by asking, what am I missing? Tell me exactly why this plan might fail.
That one question just invites the truth in. It acknowledges your own fallibility.
And horizontally, between departments, you use the service check. Our teams seem misaligned here. Can we look at the overarching service goal together? How do we fix this?
Or the silo breaker, which forces transparency.
Right. If my team doesn't see this data by Tuesday, we can't support your operation. Can we set up a seamless sharing protocol so the workflow doesn't stall? It shifts the focus from who is right to what the mission requires.
Okay, so to really get to a world-class level, organizations look at benchmarks where the stakes are life or death, or where quality control is an absolute financial imperative. They treat dissent as a procedural requirement.
We can start with aviation safety and the two-challenge rule used in cockpits. This is the ultimate institutionalization of dissent. If a pilot makes a critical error, it is a procedural requirement for the co-pilot to issue a warning.
Not optional insubordination, a requirement.
A requirement. And if the pilot ignores that first warning, the co-pilot must issue a second, distinct warning. To stay silent is to be complicit in the crash. The risk of silence becomes far greater than the risk of speaking up.
That's powerful.
Then you have lean manufacturing and stop work authority, known as the andon cord. This is all driven by a brutal cost dynamic. The cost of fixing a defect multiplies by 10 at every single step.
So a $1 fix at Station 1 becomes a $100 fix at the end of the line.
Precisely. So any team member, regardless of rank, has the authority to pull that cord and pause the entire production process if they see a critical failure. Management has to thank, not punish, the person who pulls the cord. They just save the company a fortune.
That is the ultimate expression of valuing truth over the theater of efficiency. Another one comes from strategic leadership in the military. Leaders' intent.
Leaders' intent dictates that leaders define the what, the goal, and the why, the purpose. But the staff is trusted to determine the how. It kills micromanagement.
Which enables rapid adaptation on the ground.
Exactly. Manage the outcome, not the method.
So we need to turn dissent into a formalized asset. That's where the red team concept comes in, from cybersecurity.
Right. Instead of being afraid of criticism, you designate a specific team whose sole job is to attack the plan, find the flaws, and try to make it fail before execution. It makes critical analysis a valuable, measurable requirement.
And finally, to get over that psychological barrier of sharing fears, there's the pre-mortem from behavioral science.
This is a psychological masterstroke. Instead of criticizing a plan, you gather the team and assume the project has already failed.
You fast forward 6 months into a hypothetical failure.
And you work backward. What caused the failure? This makes it safe for everyone to voice their fears, like, we failed because we didn't budget enough for testing, without sounding negative in the present.
So, bringing this all together, what's the synthesis for the listener who actually has to fix these barriers?
The central shift is that rank must function as utility and liability, not dominance and ego. All these protocols, the two-challenge rule, the 1-3-1, the pre-mortem, they're all just engineered to make truth flow freely.
So that strategic decisions are based on operational reality, not a polished fantasy.
Because the cost of silence is just too high to tolerate.
And if you want to institutionalize this, look at the U.S. Army's After-Action Review, or AAR. After every mission, rank is temporarily removed, and the focus is just on process improvement. What was supposed to happen, what actually happened, why was there a difference?
It creates that cultural bedrock for long-term self-correction.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought for you, the listener.
Mm-hmm.
If your organization adopted the pre-mortem protocol today, what specific critical failure point, a fear or flaw that's currently being ignored because it's too politically sensitive, would finally be safe enough to voice?
Mm-hmm.
That silent risk is the real immediate cost of the rank barrier you need to dismantle first.